हमारे celebrate nation request pest control, green storage agriculture, dino visit, this village are mostly to dino another platform categories are the license and the highest market for based on characteristic of the plant, characteristic of the plant
this. माहौल बन गया।
population as well as feeding some parasites. Studying hospital like causes of disease. Can be freely given parasite. Transformation can enhance. Mostly parasitic. Transmission, malaria, plasma. Distress and press categories. Items like photosynthetic solutions, dynamic to fragile insulation and like injections, ice water, creating both flesh and almost immunoid and like protein rich flexible. Nearly 18 years career, his research spanned ontology, taxonomy, geography, evolution, systematic, and the history and philosophy of the biology. Almost single-handedly made the origin of a species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. He also pioneered the currently accepted definitions of the biological species and was awarded the 3 prizes widely regarded as the triple crown of biology, the Darwin Prize in Agriculture, the International Prize for Biology and the Clifford Prize 1999. He died at the age of 48 in the year 2004. That's May 1994. Born 5 July 1904 came from Germany. In the diamond of the 20th century, Darwin of the 20th century, from 1983 to biology guiding the form traits. Total biological taxonomy, quantity convenience, further taxonomy, science, textual characterization, and classification of intelligence. Systematic systemology of Latin science, systematic diversity intelligence, history. The vertebrate fluids, living types in energy intelligence, extraordinary habitats in which we find a living animals, be it cold mountain, freshwater lakes, desert, or from the rivers, especially the beauty of the developing horse of the beauty of developing horse. Migrating birds, the guardian of large and the attacking sharp ears, and deep sense of wonder, ecological corporations, populations of a community or even molecule traffic inside our cell make us deeply If people on what inside his life, this question has to sit. Question 3 with the first, the technical one, and the 6th answer for what living as opposed to the non-living. The second, the philosophical one, and 6th answer to that what is a scientist as well as yes. We shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to explain what is living. What is living? There was a if you look, each number is try look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it water plants, insects, corporates, animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are around you. If you try to increase the area that you make observation in the range and variety of animals that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant or organism that you see represent a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity for other number and types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as exploring areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. So, is called describe knowledge. As stated earlier, that are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names could vary from place to place. For a country, probably you would recognize the confusion that you should be created if you did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to the organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to understanding as well as the naming of living organisms, such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we note what organism the name is attached to. This is identifications in order to facilitate the study. Number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientist's name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientists' names are based on agreed principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, ICB International Format. You may ask, how are animals named? Animals taxonomy is available in International Code for Botanical, International Code of International Code of Geological Nomenclature, ICB International Code for ICB International Code and ICGL Code of Geological Nomenclature. The science ensure that the recognized organisms has one equal name description of names to enable the people in any part of the world to derive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to know organisms. Each name has to complement the generic name and the specific epithet. The existence of providing a name components called binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carlos is traced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a word format was found convenient. Let us take example of a mango to understand the way of providing scientific names later. But the scientific name of mango is written as mangifera. Let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, mangifera represents the genus will indicate a particular species or a specific epithet or other universal words of nomenclature as follows. Nomenclature. It is called for botanical elements. National Code of Geological Nomenclature. Carlos is binomial nomenclature. Binomial is scientific name of the components and genus specific name genus and specific species. Language लिखते हैं तो लैटिन लिखते हैं mangifera indica Homo sapiens. Italics में mangifera का separated handwritten separated and line separated in italics to indicate their origins. Genus first letter capital specific first letter small mangifera indica in scientist Linnaeus. Genus in species are strain. Most living here एक species के एक name दो components और biological names are generally in Latin, written in italics. Biological names are generally in Latin, written right. Biological names होता है generally in Latin में होता है और उसको लिखा जाता है italics में. Okay, they are names are derived from the respective language. Okay, first written biological name is represented genus with the second components in the specific plan. Both the words in biological name and written alphabetically and line are printed in italics to indicate their Latin name. Okay, first word in the genus start the capital letter, the specific epithets start the small letter. It can be illustrated. The example of mangifera is first letter. Take care. Name of the author appears after the specific word, that is at the end of the biological name and is written abbreviated form. Example mangifera indica name. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or the cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organisms in that groups. What image do you see when you think of the one image? When you think of them? What image do you think? What image? What image do you see? What image do you see when you think of a dog? What do you see? What image do you see? What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of so we know that we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with extremities and body hair like this, and plants if we try to talk of it. The picture in each our minds will be of wheat plants, not of a rice. Any other plants, hens, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice plants, etc. convenient. categories we use to study organisms. Scientists terms first in these for these categories structure here most different the taxa can be indicate categories and very different levels. Plants also form taxa with it is also taxa. Similarly animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that a dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy, external and internal structure along with the structure of cell development. Genus, species, Aron, strain, HI, Homophilus, Influenza of genus. Classification taxonomy groups kingdom, family, class, or family species take care of their ancestral process. Development, process biology, information of organisms and forms the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Categorizations, identification, classification, and nomenclature as a process that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs: food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classifications were based on the images of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also relationships and this branch of the study was recognized system of the world is digital from the Latin word system, which means systematic argument. For the word systematic is the title of his publications. The scope of systematic was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification, including takes into account relational relations between organisms. Shelter, Rakshastra, systematics plus phylogenetic syntax. Two categories defined taxonomic classification, classification, nomenclature, identification, nomenclature, classification, taxonomic academic for the taxonomic classification is not a similistic process but involves hierarchy of the steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the categories are part of overall taxonomic argument, it is called the taxonomic categories, and all categories together constitutes a taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as a unit of classification. In fact, represent a rank and is commonly termed as taxonomic graph. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insects represents a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus we are given a rank category. Can name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent categories. Category further denotes an each name or taxon in fact represents a unit classification. These taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development. Taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as organisms, subplants, class, or family, genus, species. All organisms, including those in the plant and animal kingdoms, have species as the first category. Now the question you may ask each: how to place an organism in various categories? The best requirement is knowledge of characters of an individual or groups or organism. This would mean identifying similarities and differentities among the individuals of the same kind of organisms as well as of the other kinds of organisms. Species, lowest categories, maximum characters. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individuals or organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological differences. Let us consider the different classes of tuberous and pathological and all the three names in the tuberous to represent the specific difference of the first one. Mangifera, Solemn, and Panthera are the gender and represents another higher level of taxons or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithets representing different organisms but having morphological similarity. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet. Solemn includes species like ones of Melogena. Buildings belong to the species areas which the species sapiens, which is grouped with the whole genus of this scientist gender of sapiens. Genus comprises a group of 8 species, which is more common comparison to species of higher gender. In the gender, we can say that gender gets of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal to different species, but both belong to the genus common feature are species of genus Panthera. This genus differ from another genus Felis, which includes cats. Family. The next category, family, has a group of related children still leaves number of similarities compared to the genus. The species family are characterized on the basis of vegetative and reproductive features of plants species among plant. For example, 3 different genera, Solemn, Petunia, and Papilla, based in the family genus Panthera and but belong genus Felis cats in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the feature of the cat you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into 2 different families, Felidae and Canidae. Felidae cat, Canidae dog. The species Mangifera, Indica mango, 70% potato control, and the categories only present is first Mangifera, Solanum, and Panthera genera. Panthera Gaspes the sitting is called Solanum, Nigra, or Melangina jacea. The remaining belongs sapiens genus Homo. Genus more characters are common in comparison to species. Potato bean but two different species but belong to the genus Solanum, Lion, Panthera, Equal, Cooper, Astragalus, Pedigris, cards for this family. List number of familiar similarities compared to genus species family are characteristic on the messages stating the reproductive feature of plant species. Three different genus Solanum, Putamura, Solanum, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard family, suffix family, dagger for order common but family. What are the more common characteristics of cat? Order common organ, normal class common, Gallia, cat and tiger family. Lion in class. On a group of related families, animals, cat family, Feridae, dog, Canidae, order Carnivora, plants, Solanaceae, Convolvulaceae, order Primates, Floraceae, classes, animals, Carnivora, plus Primata class, Mammalia. Or you have seen earlier that categories like species and families are based on the single characters generally, and other high taxonomies are based on the groups of the characters order being high categories each the assignment age of families which exist of similar characters. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different gender, including enough family plant families like Coniferaceae, Solanaceae, including the order Polynomials, mainly based on the floral characters. The animals order Carnivora includes family like Felidae and Canidae. Class this category includes related order. For example, order Primata comprising monkey, gorilla, and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia along with other carnivore Latin groups like animals. Phylum Chordata, subphylum Group Chordata, Sapella Chordata, Vertebra, water loving. Now phylum classes comprising like animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Along with the mammals constitutes the next higher category is called phylum. All these based on common features like presence of notochords and dorsal hollow neural systems. And given phylum Chordata, in case of mammals classes, the few similar characters are assigned to a higher category called divisions. Kingdom, phylum divisions, class, order, family, genus, species. Kingdom, all kingdoms, all animals belong to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called kingdom. And in the classification system of animals, the kingdom Plantae on the other hand listing and comprising all plants from various divisions. Henceforth we refer to these two groups as animals and plant kingdoms. The taxonomic categories from specifically and have been shown in some other studying the species from and yes, we are going how taxonomy and some developers have difficult more than some scientists. This would be very taxonomy that I have been discussed. Student implies higher performance species to the number of characters on the kingdom of phylum main division Plantae to order family genus suborders suborder order phylum plus Aspirant system phylum plus two all the participants of Plantae mainly okay. the text, other factors data values within the text. Share higher the category categories and difficulty of the relations between the text at the same level. Here the program class becomes more complex. So commands like horsefly, man and data belongs man, commonly man horsefly, mango wheat. Biological Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens and different decathlete mostium genus Homo musca manifera python family Hominidae Mostidae Nacadiaceae order Primata Dicotheres appendix sports class Hominidae etc. Dicotyledons Monocotyledons phylum Chordata Arthropoda Angiosperm This report is a very rich millions of plants and animals have been identified and described, but large number still remains unknown. The very range of organisms in terms of psychological habitats, psychological and morphological features like defining characters of living organisms or in order to facilitate the study of concept and diversity of organisms. Biologists have evolved certain rules and principles for identifications. Communication and classification of organisms, the branch of knowledge dealing with these aspects is to as a taxonomy. The taxonomic study of various species of plants and animals are used for in agriculture, forestry, industry, and general of the knowing resources and their diversity. Taxonomy, information, sports, forestry, and some nuances and distinct differences which are in speech. Identify and assign a correct scientific biological name comparison to words. As per the system of nomenclature, energy forms represents by the position in their system of classification. There are many categories, ranks, and children of all the categories constitutes only taxonomists have a variety of taxonomies. Facilitates other classification research are carried out from the intellectual specification that from the field and preserved as a reference as the formal museums and botanical gardens and zoological parks and This is our cultures. Scientific basis for classificationist simple logical characters to clarify plants into trees, shapes, and how they also divided animals into two groups, those which had headlets and those that did not. And linguistic tend to be interesting classification and the most that plants and animals respective of the system is not distinguished to colors and properties and photosynthetic function about classification into plants and versus and was used to understand what rational mechanisms did not fall into other categories hence to give classifications did not fall into other categories hence particular classifications which for a long time also found in and weight structure nature functions evolutionary relationships etc. classification system has changes over time constant overall different sometimes what keeps users these kingdoms have been changing number and nature of all kingdoms have also been seen different by different scientists over the time. Also the particular classification difference and finds it can be considered definitely multicellular tissues are tissue organelle system in the same type of organism. In organism, protistophony eukaryotes cellular present and cellular application present cellular and communication to traffic synthetic chemical chemical photosynthetic autotrophs heterotrophs autotrophs synthetic heterotrophs nuclear absent cellular mineral system cardiac cellular non-cellular musculars present in the sound present cardiacs present absent and absent absent body cellular multicellular represent cellular multicellular tissue tissue modified shadow traffic motion theory photosynthetic and heterotropic seprophytic parasite autotrophic photosynthetic and heterotrophic saprophytic parasites autotrophic photosynthetic heterotrophic saprophytes attribute 1969 popular carbon dioxide the upcoming attribute 1969 popular carbon dioxide with the also found by human being the main criteria for classification human including cell structure, body organ, human formation, promotions, and phylogenetic relationships. Comparative account of different characteristics from the 5 claims of the three introduced system of the activities in the main related by 2 points within the universe. Here is the foundation there were 6 different classification learned about the system classes. Let us look at this 5 main classification associations and considerations that influenced the classification systems in multicultural and fungi size forms which forms under finds the characters that influence these kingdoms large dead rather than dead and silver in their cells. These appears to be the groups of which wildlife and other characteristics about to be which were currently it also grouped together with the full organism and the multicellular ones. So some example Chlamydomonas and Spirogalactic used with the underlying the classification of differentiation between the autotrophs, they also show some characteristics difference in their work with the green plants and morphologic cellular which when such characteristics when considered fungi were placed in the separate kingdom fungi of eukaryotic always were grouped together under the kingdom and initial conclusion were placed in kingdom protista as a country. Chlamydomonas placed in plants and both having cell walls with para-mucin and amiloid were placed in the animal kingdom which lack cell walls. It has together organisms which can be in either classification or placed in different kingdom. This happened because the criteria for classification change. This kind of changes will take place in future depending on the improvement in understanding of characteristic and evolutionary relationships over time. An attempt has been made to avoid a classification system which reflects not only the morphological, physiological and reproductive similarities but also phylogenetic, that is based on evolutionary relationships. In this chapter, we will study characteristics of environment, subphylum of the aquatic ecosystem classification of plant animal common fertile plant animals finances bacteria, its building and nutrition. Females develop early and paramecium ocean bacteria, inherent bacteria are the cell members of animal and they are most abundant microbiome. Bacteria are some they are the most abundant microbiome. Bacteria occurs almost every 1 day. Bacteria are present in the handful of soil. They also live in extreme habitats such as hot springs, desert, snow, and deep oceans where very few other life forms can survive. Many of them live or on other than parasites. Bacteria group under 4 categories based on their shapes: the spherical coccus, cocci, the rod shape bacillus, comma shape, spiral, cocci, coccus, round, spherical shape, normal, thermophila. Figure comma shaping through the bacteria. The bacterial structure is very simple. They are very complex in way of oral behavior compared to many organisms in the creature. Bacteria as a group show the most extensive metabolic diversity. Some of the bacteria are autotrophic, that is, they synthesize their own food from an organic substrate. They may be photosynthetic, autotrophic, or chemosynthetic. Some bacteria are autotrophs, that is, they ignore the organisms or for food. Archaebacteria. These bacteria are special since they live in some of the most harsh habitats, such as extreme salt areas, halophiles, hot spring, thermophilophiles, and marsharian methanogens. Archaebacteria differ from other bacteria, inherent different cell wall structure, and this which is responsible for their survival in extreme conditions. Methanogens are present in the gut for several ruminant animals such as cows and buffaloes, and they are responsible for the production of methane areas from the tongue of these animals. Archaebacteria section contains archaeometine, fibrones, methanoid prokaryotes, halophiles, extreme mutants, cell wall adaptations, sometimes with large methanogens. These bacteria solutions and some of the most subjects to salt areas, halophiles, hot springs, thermostatic fats, and harsh areas. The archaebacteria differ from other bacteria in a different cell wall structure, and this which is responsible for the survival extreme conditions. Methanogens are present in the gut of several ruminant animals such as cows and buffaloes, and they are responsible for the production of methanogens. Methane goes from the dung of the animals to bacteria shapes, coccus, round, bacillus, rod, comma, prokaryotes, most diverse metabolism of few autotrophs. Reproductions, manufacturing, and temperatures, reproduction, not true sexual lateral must be received with a billion and materials and expert common enabling of filament is not of us seen filamentable most of and enabling. There are thousands of different bacteria and true bacteria containing presence of the rich cell and if motile fish like some also have beautiful similar to living plants and the fruits and the photosynthetic drops. This is another filamentous flesh water and not to start with the colonies Actionaries under gelatinous shape. They often form in a polythin fresh. Notably, some of the organisms can fix at for nitrogen specialized cells called hydrocysts. Most chemosynthetic root of bacteria as well as inorganic substances such as nitrates, nitrites, and ammonia used to use typical productions of the character in recycling nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, sulfur. Autotrophic material must have been managed in the majority important decomposers. Many of them have significant independence if they are taken out from the production of antibiotics and fixing nitrogen in the mycoplasma among the medicinal cells develops some antibiotic tetracyclines, pathogenic phylums, the shape of bacteria organisms. Some are pathogens causing damage of human beings, crops, farms, and some pets develop agricultural such as known diseases caused by different bacteria. Bacteria produce mainly nitrogen, and sometimes under unfavorable conditions they are produced exporting natural produced by a short of sexual evolution by adapting primitive type of transfer from the one bacteria to the mycoplasma are rendered completely like a cell wall. They are the smallest living cells known and can survive without oxygen and mycoplasma are pathogens. Survive without oxygen. Action from mycoplasma without oxygen. Science cell division based on a chemistry, but the important is different and not well defined, but maybe a total considered products is to one biologist, maybe a plant chemical in this we include classifieds, dinoflagellates, egrenoids, limates, and protozoas and microbes, neuroproteins, and plant marine equity. This kingdom forms a link with the other species of plants, animals, fungi, the cults, the protist cell body contains a well-defined nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. Some have flagella or distinct asexual and sexual bipolar and jacob formations. Protist in the case shaped foundation dinoflagellates will not so much popular CT and S classified This includes items of investments in their farm, fresh water as well as mineral components. They are microscopic floats passively in water currents. Planktons, most of them are photosynthetic invertebrates. The cell wall form to thin overlapping sheets which feed to the eggs in a short box. The walls are angled silica and the walls are indestructible. Thus, light travel left behind large amount of cell or deposits in their habitats. This accumulation over millions of years referred to as diatom resource earth, creating these soil used pollution, filtration of soil, sheet of atoms, and atoms are the chief producer of the oceans. Classifying while filtration of storage systems. So like this kind of shell is basically marine nutrients, chlorophyll, xanthophyls, bronchophytes, poison, dinophages, two-phages. These animals are mostly very inflorescent. They appear yellow, green, brown, blue, and red depending on the ingredients present in the cells. This has stiff cellular plates in their outer surface. Most of them have two flagella blue eyes and the transverse between very often the dinophages examples non-galogs would also such rapid multiplication that they make the sea appear red tides, toxins, and research may kill or marine animals such as fishes, iguanas, which to drop connectivity between the plants and animals. Majority of them are freshwater organisms on stagnant water instead of the cell wall. They have a protein rich layer called pellicle which makes their body flexible. They have two flagella, short and long. They are photosynthetic in the presence of sunlight. When deprived of the sunlight, they behave like heterotrophs by predating other small organisms. Interestingly, the humans of iguanas are identical to those present in other plants. Some live in universe to flagella, some absent. Higher plants to be present in plant like heterotrophic animals like mutation. Slime molds. Slime molds are saprophytic. Slime molds are saprophytic. Protest grown and decaying developments and non-decaying twigs and leaves. In general suitable condition, they are from an animation called plasmodiums, which means they can spread over several feet during unfavorable conditions. Plasmodium differentiates and forms protein bodies bearing spores at the tips. These spore produces two walls. They are extremely resistant and survive for many years even under adverse conditions. The spores are dispersed by air currents. Protozoas. All protozoas are heterotrophs. All protozoas are heterotrophs and like as predators for previous heterotrophs and like as predators for parasites. They are believed to be relatives of animals. There are four major groups of protozoas: hemoboid protozoas, These are living fish, water, seawater, most soil, texture, and nuts and hormones and paramecites. Side silica cells. This is a material structure of the cell of the spirituals. Flagellata, parasoma, frequency, by eating also the body of transmitted as in our marine forms have silica cells on their surface of them such as are parasites, flagellated protozoas. Members of these groups are either free-living or parasitic. They have flagella on the parasitic forms cause diseases such as sleeping sickness, example trypanosoma. Select this therapeutic to remove organism because of the presence of thousands of silica. They have cavity, the lid that opens to the outside of the cell surface for community. Movement of walls of cilia causes the water leading for to be screwed into the lid. Example paramersum. Spores are sometimes diverse organisms that have non-infectious spore stage in their life cycle. The most notorious Plasmodium malleable parasite which causes malaria, a disease which has a staggering effect on human population. Habitat cosmopolitan. I'm not sure. Nutrition separate crops and nutrition like microchara, like in some populations. Fungi, cosmopolitan, mycology, cytology, cell bacteria, fungus, leaking of phototropical news, they show diversity of morphological and hybridity most healthy. Fungi are most breed and autumn fruits. The common mushroom wheat and turistal are also fungi, but spots seen on mustard leaves adding to parasitic fungus by example used to make bread and beer. Other fungi cause diseases in plants, animals, pet, dust causing toxemia, and another source of antibiotics are penicillin. Example fungi are cosmopolitan and occur in air, water, soil, and animal plants. They prefer to grow in zones and humid places. Have you ever wondered why we keep finding food in the refrigerator? Yes, it is to prevent food from going bad due to bacteria or fungal infection, with the exceptions of yeast which are used in filamentous. Their bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structures called hyphae. The network of hyphae is known as mycelium food. Some hyphae are continuous tubes filled with multinucleated cytoplasm. These are called sinusoid hyphae. Others have septi or cross walls in their hyphae. The cell walls of fungi are composed of fatty and polysaccharides. Most fungi are heterotrophic and absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrates, and hence are called saprophytes. Those that depend on living plants and animals are called parasites. They can also live as symbionts in association with the leaves, lichens, and with roots of higher plants as mycorrhizae. Reproduction is something that can take place in vegetative means fragmentation and such reproduction systems. And the reproduction is modification conformation. Sperm spores, indigenous, use prototype, exogenous. Subtle branched Bacillus mushrooms, Gallicus, Cellulose, Bluster, and asexual excellent fermentation of Bacillus. Septate. Fungi and Bacillus. Septate animals uniquely purpose more than Corpulent spores and spores and sexual portions just spores and natural spores of the various spores are produced in the same structure called protein as a cycle in the following three states. Fusion of protoplasm into motile and non-motile elements called plasma. To in fungus uses relates come together and in some then few hepatitis immediately result in hepatitis. After asthmatic and bacillus wherein dikaryotic stage in present that is to glycosol occurs such as conditions is called dikaryosis and phase is called dikaryophage fungus. Later the parental nuclear phase the cells become deployed fungi from 40 bodies in which reproduction division first leading to the formation of a the morphology of the mycelium mode of spore formation and floating bodies form the bed. Result of the division of the genome into various classes. Sexual fungi, Phycomycetes. Members of Phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats. Number of Phycomycetes are found in aquatic habitats. And all decaying wood is used in damp place or as obligate parasites, all plants, mycelium septate, and sinusitic asexual reproduction takes place by spermatile or spine spores. Non-motile, these spores are endogenously producing a spore and zygospore. They form a fusion of two gametes. These gametes are similar in morphology, isogenous or dissimilar, and also members of them. Some come example nuclear rhizopods, red mold internation, and some parasitic fungi, mustard, ascomyces, commonly known as sac fungi. Ascomycetes are mostly multiple example penicillium early penicillium example Saccharomyces. They are saprophytic decomposers. Parasites are coprophilous, green bundle, nuclear, aspergillus, agaricus, agaricus, coprophilous. branching and separating acids. Spores are connected to produce heat genously in the species machine called fluids. Currently, on the generation produced machine spores are called ascospores, which are produced endogenously in cyclic acid-series processes. SK are different types of floating bodies called ascocarbs. Some examples are Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Neurospora. Neurospora is used extensively in biochemical and genetic work. Many members like morels and truffles are edible and are considered daily. See. And the pseudomonas is the dichotic cell divides by the connections Hoffman. The pseudomonas commonly known from residents are mushrooms, fungi, or puffballs, including soil, on rocks and tree stems, and in living plant bodies as parasites, simple rust and spots within the cell is branched and separated. The sexual spores are generally not found but vegetative reproduction by fragmentation common. The sex organs are absent but plasma can be brought out by fusing to vegetative or osmotic cells or different external type. The resultant structure is dichotic, which is ultimately gives rise to the cell. Calvidium immunosystem place in the basidium producing four basidial spores. The basidial spores are exogenously when the basidia. The basidia are arranged in floating bodies called basidiocarps. Some common members of mushrooms, Strialis notaximiatus. The semiconductor divided gland portions first inside of acid commonly known as fungi use because only the physical vegetative phases of these fungi are known in as fungi. These fungi are well discovered. They are moved into classes. They are actually properties. Also possible that the asexual and vegetative stage have been given and placed under the deuteromacities and the sexual stage another and placed under another class. Later the linkages were established. The fungi were correctly identified and moved out of the deuteromacity and sexual stage. Members of the deuteromacities were discovered. They were often escomacities and acidomacities. Deuteromacities produced known as Columbia. The machine is separated and branched on its members. Also, the sorts of parasites very large number of them are decomposers of water in the mineral settlement. Some examples are Alternative, Colito, Trichum, and Trichoderma. Kingdom gland includes all the corrective chlorophyll containing organs commonly called glands. A few members are partially heterotrophic such as insectivorous glands or parasites include throat and veins, fly trap, example of insectivorous plants, and cascata parasites. The plant cells have an chirally structure with the prominent chloroplast and cell wall mainly made up of cells. You will study the correct cell structure in the algebraic branching includes graphites, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and geosperms. Life cycle of the plant has two distinct phases: the required saprophyte and the acquired gametophyte that alter with the which each other the lens the acquired and deployed phases, and whether these phases are free living or dependent on others by definite groups and And this phenomenon is called alternation. Alternation is the struggle of faculties in kingdom and making. This kingdom is characterized by heterotrophic chaotic organisms that are multicellular and their cells that works directly or indirectly depend on the plant or food. They digest their food internal cavity and store food as observed glycogen or fat. The mode of nutrition in biology by ingestion of food they forward from food to parent pattern and grow into adults that have a definite shape and size. Higher forms so elaborate sensory neuromotor mechanism. Most of them are capable of location and promotion. The sexual equation is the population of male and female followed by embryological development. Silent feature of various phyla and describes with the virus viruses Johnson in coordinate classification of vertical. There is no mention of larvins and some cellular groups like viruses, and plantains are different to share all of the suffer like effect of common cold or flu. What effects viruses can have on us if we do not succeed with our conditions. Viruses do not have place classifications. They are not considered truly understanding as those organisms that have a cell structure. The viruses are not that are characterized by having an inert crystalline structure out of the living cell. Discovered to rot inhabitants hospital colored with tail fibers are capsid tobacco virus bacteriophage. Once they infect a cell, they take over a machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, killing the host. We call viruses living virus that means venom or poisonous food. Between against 5 and 1892 decoded certain microbes as case cause activities of tobacco. These are found to be smaller than the bacteria. Filters demonstrated the extract infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants and called flu wasp. Contagion amphibian infections in WHO in 1935 showed that viruses could be crystallized in crystals. Largely involving they are not outside their interface. Viruses are only parasites. Inhalations. Viruses also contain antimaterial that could be either RNA or DNA. No viruses contain both RNA and DNA. Viruses material protein and the genetic material infectious and general viruses. The infections have similar standard RNA. No viruses that infect animals have either single or double stranded RNA or double stranded DNA. Bacteria virus or bacteriophages. Viruses that infect the bacteria are usually double stranded DNA viruses. The protein code called capsid made up of small segments called capsules protects the nucleic acid. These capsules are arranged in helical or polyhedral geometry forms. Viruses cause diseases like smallpox, influenza, etc. Acquired immunodeficiency and can cause virus plants. The symptoms can be mosaic condition of rolling and curling and independently document stunted growth and suggestion of virus related 71 during Chirina discover unknown infection agent that was similar than the vaccine caused by expanded bacteria which was found in free replication effects. The protein code that is found in viruses Hence the name why it was in modern medicine. Certain infectious neurological diseases were found to be transmitted by an agent consisting of an unfolded protein agent was science to virus. This is not record. The most notable diseases caused by bovine spongiform encephalopathy. This is bovine spongiform encephalopathy, commonly called mad cow disease in cattle and in its analogous species. Jack of disease in humans. No Felt's Jack of disease. Like a certain biotic association that is mutually useful. Association to algae and algae component in known as the phycobiont and fungal component as macronutrient and heterotropic respectively. Algae is critical food for fungi and fungi provide shelter and absorb minerals, nutrients and water for its partners. So there is association and if you saw matching condition nickel they do not grow in poverty. And plants and animals was possible by Aristotle on the basic of simple morphological characteristics. Classified organisms into two units, planting and animal, Utica, proposed and five. And they main criteria of 5 main classification, their cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, and reproduction and fertilization. In 5 main classification, bacteria, kingdom, monaga, bacteria, cosmopolitan, and distribution. These organisms shows the most extensive metabolic diversity. Bacteria may be autotrophic or heterotrophic in their mode of nutrition. Kingdom produces some roots, all single cell decorative features, chrysohytes, dinoflagellates, non-cyanoids, protozoans, protists, different nucleus and other membrane organelles. They produce both asexually and sexually. Fungi shows their diversity in structures and like most fungi are psychopathic in their mode of nutrition. They show asexual and sexual reproduction with phycomycetes, ascomycetes, bacillomyces, and deuteromyces, photoacid and drugs. The plant includes all eukaryotic, chlorophyll containing organisms, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, and gymnosperm and angiosperm, including these with the life cycle of plant transformation and autophagy. Sporophytes emission the heterotrophic eukaryotic and multicellular making cell wall are including the mode of nutrition of morphology that occurs mostly by sexual hormones. Some like virus and errors inside not including this is my last session and smallest called smallest agent the agent words.